Hi guys, and welcome back from Carly, head forage monkey and wild living enthusiast at the Herbathicary. Today we have another lockdown edition of my foraged recipes. It's February 2021 and we are all going crazy locked indoors. Yesterday I found some absolutely amazing jelly ear mushrooms, so today I am escaping to go and see what goodies I can find to put with it. I did get caught in the snow, but I also found some more velvet shanks and was inspired to make a version of hot and sour soup that I was gifted while camping about 15 years ago by this wonderful hippie guy called Justin, who basically traveled around with all of his belongings in a backpack on an old bicycle with an old tent and saw every corner of this beautiful country. So the disclaimer, I am not a doctor, I am not an ethnobotanist, I am just a foraging enthusiast. I have a really good guidebook and use the internet and with the help of other foragers to make sure I know what I'm doing. Always make sure you've got permission. Avoid picking from areas with pollution or where animals might have sprayed. Never eat anything unless you are 100% sure. Do your own thorough research and only ever take as much as you need. So I should have worn booties for this adventure and brought an extra bag to pick up all this litter. But today we are looking for jelly ear mushrooms, and I know that there's some just through here. Now, we prefer to call them tree ears, but the auricularia judai, I believe they're known as, are so tasty. They're rich in vitamin B complex vitamins. They've got polysaccharides, which aid the heart health. They're exceptionally antioxidant, and they're believed to help preventing degenerative diseases. And they're especially fun to give a wibble wobble when you're not out harvesting. So back home in the kitchen, it was time to wash and remove any bark off my jelly ears after a good wibble wobbling. So rinse these all off, took a couple of times, examine them thoroughly for bits of bark, and then it is time to trim them off. You will notice the bit where they meet the tree has a rather rubbery, clearer area to it. We're just going to grab a pair of scissors and trim that bit off. Now I'm going to pop some of these in the dehydrator, but I'm going to keep a bunch of them, a handful, for today's recipe. Now, if you liked this video or found anything useful, please give us a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more content, hit that subscribe button and you'll be notified when I make new videos. So we headed out to find the extra ingredients for our soup. The first thing we came across was the very thorny bull thistle, or Cirsium vulgar. This is a great source of fiber, protein, phosphorus, magnesium, calcium, copper, and zinc, but it's also anti-inflammatory, helps with a healthy liver, and has the polysaccharide inulin in it to help maintain blood sugars. Now, normally we'd eat the stem when it's up and flowering, but it's winter, so we are going to harvest the roots and add them in. I strongly advise a thick pair of gloves and avoiding those prickles. Now, I had to get a bit adventurous to find a nice patch of garlic mustard. The Alearia petiolata is high in vitamin A and vitamin C and is great for coughs and colds. I'm going to grab some of the small leaves and for their flavor, of course. As a prize for surviving going through the bushes, I found some baby dock leaves. They have more vitamin A than carrots, more vitamin C than oranges, B1, B2, iron, magnesium, and manganese. And never far away, we found some narrow-leaf plantain, or Plantago lanceolata, also high in vitamin C, iron, calcium, manganese, and copper. It's a bronchodilator, which helps with coughs, colds, catarrh on the chest, and most disorders of the respiratory tract. Hiding just underneath its leaves, another great source of vitamin C, the hairy bittercress or Cardamine hirsuta, also high in calcium, magnesium, beta-carotene, and antioxidants. Another great one to help with flu symptoms, we found some herb robert, or some Geranium robertianum. I think. It's great for helping with function of the liver and kidneys. It's also antiviral, antibiotic, and antioxidant. It contains carotenoids, which convert to vitamin A, vitamin B and C, calcium, potassium, magnesium, iron, and phosphorus again. And it is also a great oxygen carrier. If you've seen any of my previous videos, you know the dandelion goes in everything. The Taraxacum officinale is an overall powerhouse, high in vitamin C, A, K, and E, folate, some B vitamins. It also has several of the minerals in the greens, but the root is also rich in carbohydrate inulin, which is a soluble fiber, supports the healthy bacterial flora in the intestinal tract. It's also high in antioxidants, beta-carotene, which helps with cellular damage, and it's anti-inflammatory and helps with a healthy liver. Today I am going to harvest some of the younger leaves, which are less bitter than the old ones, and pull up some roots to add some extra fiber to my soup. And surviving the winter, but not very well, we have some of the wood sorrel, often mistaken for clover as it has 3 petals on each stem. However, these are heart-shaped. Now, the oxalis does contain oxalic acid, so if you have problems with calcium uptake, I'd avoid this one. However, you would need to eat a bucket of them in order for them to be dangerous. They are otherwise high in vitamin A, C, and folate, thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, and vitamin B6. And nestling nicely under those leaves, we have the second one that I add to everything. Here we've got some tiny little baby leaves coming up, so they're absolutely perfect. And this is stinging nettle, or the Urtica dioica. Another powerhouse, high in vitamin A, C, K, and B vits. It also has most of the same trace minerals as the others, and several healthy fats, amino acids, polyphenols, even beta-carotene and lutein to help your eyes. So we're back in the kitchen with our bounty, and our first job is to give all these leaves a good wash off, separate the root from the dandelion and very carefully from the bull thistle, harvest any of these leaves that we wish to use. And at this point we can also take out any damaged leaves, remove any extra dirt, anything that we don't want in our meal, and then we're off to the chopping board. Once the roots are all nice and clean, I just run a thumbnail across them to clear off any of that excess skin, but they're nice and white and clean inside. With the older bull thistle root, I just remove some of the stringy or adventurous roots, as we like to call them, and do the same thing, just cleaning it up with my nail. Now, the only seasoning Justin had, as I said, was a couple of sachets of salt in his pocket. So the ingredients in this meal actually play a big part in the seasoning as well. The spinach, the dandelion leaf can be a bit bitter, but that'll cook down just fine. The nettles, the dock leaves, all of them would in effect be the greenery within the stew. The roots we are going to use as like carrots or even potatoes, I guess. The herb robert is quite mild as well, but things like the hairy bittercress, which is quite spicy, and the wood sorrel, which is quite citrusy, they're going to add the background flavors. Next we have the wonderful fungi. So we've got our jelly ears ready. These are all nice and fresh. We do, however, have some dehydrated velvet shanks and some dehydrated oyster mushrooms that I found a couple of weeks ago. So first job is to rehydrate those. So let's pop our leaves aside to carry on draining and grab a bowl, a kettle full of hot water, pop our mushrooms in and allow them to hydrate. These ones took about half an hour, but until they're nice and mushy. So we'll pop these aside and get on with step 3, which is where the interpretation and the cheating bit came into it. Now, Justin used water that was tapped from a tree, so that was quite sweet already. He also used a lot of lemon balm and wood sorrel for the bitterness. I, however, don't have these. I also had a chili on the day, and that was a bit of cheating, but I do like a lot of bang to my sweet. So to best match what he put together, I use 1/4 of a lemon. I also use some apple cider vinegar, which you can make yourself, so technically foraged. And I use a healthy amount of honey, about a 1/4 teaspoon of Himalayan pink sea salt, and some extra herbs, some pepper and some parsley. So into our jar goes about a tablespoon of honey. Then I add my 1/4 teaspoon of salt straight away, as it's quite granular and helps it dissolve quicker. A tablespoon of the apple cider vinegar, a good squeeze of the lemon, and then just take the tip off this chili for the extra spice. Chop them finely, seeds in or out, give it a good stir. I'm going to add a little bit of parsley and a dash of black pepper because I didn't find much hairy bittercress and I do like the peppery flavour to it. And then I'm going to add a clove of garlic because I have it in everything and you can never have enough garlic. So chop the garlic finely, add it into the mix and give it another good stir. Now, where you would normally marinate your meat in this with some soy sauce, I actually want the roots to sit in there for a while and soak up all the goodies. So now let's get on to chopping our roots. Obviously, this one is optional if you'd like them to maintain some of their crunchiness. So we'll pop that aside and onto our jelly ears. Now, I like mine in quite fine strips. You, however, can cut them whichever way you like. So all in fine strips, and then we'll go on to our velvet shanks and cut our oyster mushrooms a bit finer too, I think. And then the final prep job is to cut up our freshly washed and drained greens. Now, if you picked baby little nettle leaves like I did, they don't really have their sting yet, so I can handle them with care. But if you got bigger ones, I do advise either cutting them separately or using gloves while cutting everything. So cutting them not only makes them more palatable, but it also helps release all the goodies inside. And once you have your preferred size of green, it is time to take it over to the pot. Now I am using an instant cooker because it allows me to set the temperature to under 40 so none of the goodies are destroyed. However, you could mimic this by lifting your pot higher on an oven, I guess, or a fire. Now for the sauce, which I guess is a stock in this case, I'm going to just top this up with boiling water to help the rest of the honey melt and to help me get it out of the cup. Probably will need at least another 3 cups of water and give that a good stir, and then we are going to start cooking. Pop that in your pot and let's get ready. Because finally it's time to pop in our greens, and we're going to give them a stir and let them sit for a little while. And I normally let them soften for about 10 minutes. And while they're doing their thing, I will go over and check on how all my jelly ears are doing in the dehydrator and probably pop the kettle on. Then the next step is totally optional. My green leaves have been sitting for about 40 minutes now. I let them be, but I like my jelly ears with a bit of crunch. Now, I must warn you that this can be very dangerous, as when they get hot, they pop and they fly out of the pan. So I'm doing mine in the toasted sandwich maker because I can pop the lid down, they can pop away, and you can hear how there they go, and they're popping away. So I will leave them until they're crispy and go take care of the soup. Now I cheated again here because I thought my soup could do with some color, so I added just a handful of these rainbow chard leaves that I had growing in a pot. Then in with my slightly crispy jelly ears, my wood ear and my velvet shanks, and we'll give that a good stir. Now the soup will thicken a bit already with the mushrooms in, but I leave mine to reduce for another 20 minutes or so on low, and then it's time to serve it up and enjoy. Which I thoroughly did. The chili was perfectly offset by the honey, and the soup itself was just really, really tasty. I hope you guys will give this one a go. If you did enjoy the video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Thank you guys for joining us for another forage video from Carly at the Apothecary.